Humanities investigation. If Waler war horse in World War I contributed to victory at Beersheba and heightened morale in soldiers, then their effects pivoted the capture of Jerusalem and the British victory over the Ottoman Empire. March 1917. Ottoman Empire, now the Turkish Republic. British EEF, Egyptian Expeditionary Force, caught in a standstill against the Turkish Ottoman defensive line, spanning from Gaza, past Beersheba, and outwards. The only route the British can take to win over the Ottoman Empire is through Beersheba. Seizing the water reservoirs and railroad will limit enemy resources, and the location will provide a straight passage to Gaza and the capture of Jerusalem. 31st of October 1917. Location Beersheba, Ottoman Empire, now the Turkish Republic. 1530. The 12th and 14th Australian Light Horse Divisions were ordered to charge Beersheba after two separate victories leading up to the Ridden Charge. East of Beersheba, they formed the 1st Squadron line to either side of the W Road. Of both divisions, the A Squadron led the charge, forming a line 200 metres wide. The B, C and D Squadrons followed, the equal 300-metre line spanning between them, with the D Squadron standing for backup. The 12th and 14th Australian Light Horse Brigade started the charge at a walk. 31st of October 1917, 1700. Because of the decision of Lieutenant General Sir Harry Trevell, the Desert Mounted Corps maintained the charge on horseback. Beginning at a walk, the A, B and C squadrons followed their attack on the town of Beersheba, to be awaited by the shocked Ottoman Empire troops, defending the only water source and what stood between the British and the seas of the Turkish defensive line. Now at a gallop, the Anzac Desert Mounted Corps had the opposition's trenched defensive line in view. Caught off guard, the Ottoman troops fired at the quickly moving targets. With few horses down, the movement was ineffective. With rifles and bayonets in hand as sabres, swords, the opposition stood no chance. Leaping over the trenches, with some of the Anzac Mounted Corps dismounting and attacking on foot, side by side with mounted soldiers, swarming the trenches and resulting with little casualties of Anzac troops. Whilst the slaughter commenced at the trenches, the rest of the mounted troops continued past gaps in the defensive line and through the town, later followed by victorious Light Horse Brigadesmen. The troops headed through the town and towards the railway lines and water sources, prohibiting retreat and the attempted destroying of the remaining water reservoirs of the Ottoman Empire. By evening, the town of Beersheba was taken by the DMC, Desert Mounted Corps, and the XX Corps, opening the door for a clear victory at Gaza and the capture of Jerusalem. If Waler war horses in World War I contributed to victory at Beersheba and the morale in soldiers, then their effect pivoted the capture of Jerusalem and the British victory over the Ottoman Empire. How did the use of Waler war horses change the outcome of the Battle of Beersheba? The following quote of a light horseman recalling after a battle describes how the horses in the main charge changed the outcome of the battle. It was the horses that did it, those marvellous bloody horses. Where would we have been but for them? Rather than putting the congratulations on themselves, the light horsemen decided to turn their thanks to the Waler war horses, whose actions changed the battle forever. Where would we have been but for them? This use of rhetorical questioning at the end of a quote leads the audience to think, would the Battle of Beersheba be won if a Waler war horse was not involved in the last charge? Furthermore, if Waler war horses were not involved in the war, would the world still be as it is today? Due to a primary quote of the Australian Light Horseman, the Waler war horse was the reason for a win at Beersheba. But was the victory at Beersheba the reason for the capture of Jerusalem? Lieutenant General Sir Harry Trevell. Previous to Beersheba, Trevell was acting in South Africa in charge of a squadron of the Queensland Mounted Infantry, later to be named the first Australian to permanently command the Desert Mounted Corps, after his actions at Gallipoli. During the Battle of Beersheba, Trevell made a decision that changed the results of the battle, to charge Beersheba on horseback with a mere 800 mounted soldiers, a feat that has never been done before. The third attempt involved a flanking manoeuvre, necessitating the capture of Beersheba, duly achieved with a famous mounted charge by the 4th Light Horse Brigade. Chevelle has been described as a commander that understood the capabilities of his mounted troops, used them wisely, taking calculated risks and drawing when necessary, and kept losses to a minimum. Quoted by the Australian War Memorial, this action not only led to the victory at Beersheba, but to the capture of Jerusalem and a victory of the British Empire. Understanding the capabilities of his mounted troops allows for strategic and informed battle movement, with the understanding that the troops had seen little serious action and would thus put all into their charge. Chevelle could make this decision that changed the outcome of the battle forever. The beginning of the end of the Turkish defensive line. The chosen battle tactic to charge Beersheba on horseback opened the road to a clear victory at Gaza and the capture of Jerusalem. The traditional strategy for a light horse, to dismount and attack with rifles from a distance, would leave the men vulnerable to shrapnel fire and the open plains surrounding Beersheba. This quote clearly represents how the change of tactic at Beersheba charge was the correct decision to make. To use the traditional strategy of dismounting and attacking on foot would leave the soldiers vulnerable to shrapnel fire. Rather than enduring the potential loss of hundreds of soldiers and the loss of passage for Britain, Chevelle was able to strategize an attack that would allow for minimal casualties, 70 horses killed with over 60 wounded, to have a mounted charge, the incorporation of a medieval strategy of a mounted charge, and the use of the modern technologies of the era, bayonets and rifles, rather than the medieval sabres. Chevelle was able to order a clear victory of minimal 800 mounted soldiers. With a strategized attack, over 1,000 Turkish prisoners were taken. Furthermore, with Ottoman casualties believed to be at 1,000 killed and wounded, and only 31 men from a light horsemen were killed, 36 wounded. Out of 1,067 casualties, merely 6.28% were mounted troops. This victory at Beersheba, the British had advanced to a strategically strong and fortified front, running from North Jaffa across the Judean hills to Berea. Overall allowed for a clear passage through Gaza, the British capture of Jerusalem, which was to lead to a British victory over the Ottoman Empire. As well as the victory at Beersheba, height and morale in soldiers have been proven to be contributed by the Waler war horse, and is integral to unit cohesion. In the military, unit cohesion is recognized to be beneficial as it is considered integral to morale and mission success. This quote, derived from a dependable secondary source, is a conclusion of a study made by Oxford University, that focused on how morale is linked to mission success. The main findings of this paper illustrated how, with unit cohesion, morale is linked to mission success. Unit cohesion, which in terms of Battle of Beersheba, Chevelle was able to maintain throughout the effort by his understanding of the troops, goes hand in hand with morale. Without personal drive, which is given by the presence of the cavalry through a bond that the soldiers shared, there would be no motivation in the soldiers to allow for unit cohesion. The presence of horses often increased morale among the soldiers at the front. This quote supporting the previous paper is derived from a source of a perspective that the quote is informing but able to be relied upon, as it can be written by many sources of false information, although the bias in the website is moderate to high, as it can be written by many sources who ended the battle and who can bring their beliefs into account. If all information is true, as it is accurately supported by the previous source, then the page holds a low level of bias, as it would have been a close to accurate account of events. The Battle of Beersheba is a perfect illustration of the results of both sources. With heightened morale and sturdy unit cohesion, the DMC were able to end the battle in a strong victory with minimum casualties. The research question was asked, what changed as a result of a Waler war horse in World War I? In response, the hypothesis was stated. If Waler war horses in World War I contributed to victory at Beersheba and heightened morale in soldiers, then their effects pivoted the capture of Jerusalem and the British victory of the Ottoman Empire. Morale was integral to unit cohesion and mission success. The actions of Lieutenant General Zaharie Jebel and heightened morale in soldiers due to a Waler war horse resulted in a clear victory at Beersheba. This victory allowed for success at Gaza and in turn the British victory over the Ottoman Empire by the capture of Jerusalem. In summary, the contribution of a Waler war horse to the Battle of Beersheba victory and a lift in morale in soldiers has allowed for their contribution to a British victory over the Ottoman Empire.